Commission africaine des droits de l'homme et des peuples, honorable commissaire, mes chers collègues, honorable juge, membre de la Cour africaine des droits de l'homme et des peuples, Excellences, Mesdames, Messieurs les représentants étatiques, Excellences, Mesdames, Messieurs les représentants des institutions nationales des droits de l'homme, Excellences, Messieurs, Madame, les représentants de la société civile, Mesdames, Messieurs. Permettez-moi d'abord de vous accueillir à cette deuxième journée des assises de la 52e session ordinaire de la Commission africaine des droits de l'homme et du peuple. Une session qui, comme vous le savez, est placée sous le signe de la commémoration de la 25e anniversaire de la Commission africaine. J'espère que vous êtes tous et toutes bien reposés et que vous êtes prêts et prêtes pour une autre journée intense, à tout le moins sur le plan intellectuel. Alors, nous allons poursuivre ce matin l'exercice que nous avons commencé hier, un exercice qui consiste, comme vous le savez bien, à faire le bilan des 25 années de la Commission africaine des droits de l'homme et du peuple, mais également en même temps à réfléchir sur les perspectives à venir. Et dans cette optique, c'est un réel plaisir et un honneur pour moi de modérer ce panel d'éminentes personnalités qui vont bien sûr nous entretenir sur les relations que la Commission entretient avec les autres organes de l'Union africaine. Et d'emblée, il est important de signaler que ces relations-là, sont fondées sur une assise juridique très solide, dans la mesure où l'article 45, paragraphe 1er, littéra C de la charte, prévoyait déjà cette coopération institutionnelle entre la Commission africaine et les autres organes de l'Union africaine. Il faut noter que si on se replace dans un contexte historique, à l'époque, la plupart de ces organes n'existaient même pas. Mais les pères fondateurs de la charte ont quand même tenu à préciser que la Commission devrait collaborer et coopérer avec les organes qui exercent le même mandat en matière de promotion et de protection des droits de l'homme. Alors aujourd'hui, les choses ont changé. Il fut un temps où la Commission avait presque le monopole sur la promotion et la protection des droits de l'homme, mais avec la création de l'Union africaine, on a ce que je pourrais appeler des proliférations d'organes et d'institutions qui ont en même temps le même mandat que la Commission en matière de promotion et de protection des droits de l'homme. Donc, il est important qu'il y ait une sorte de synergie, une sorte de collaboration entre ces organes qui ont le même objectif. Alors, le professeur Dankwa est l'actuel président de la commission boursière du Ghana et il enseigne à temps partiel dans le cadre du Fonds pour les droits de l'homme dans le monde et de l'initiative internationale en faveur des droits des réfugiés. Il est également fondateur de la section du droit d'intérêt public et du développement du barreau nigérien. Et il est aussi membre du comité exécutif de l'ordre des avocats. Parallèlement à ses fonctions d'enseignant de droit à la faculté de droit de l'Université du Ghana, le professeur Dankwa a exercé les fonctions de membre, vice-président et président de la Commission africaine des droits de l'homme.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, I'm sitting here today to make a presentation on behalf of Justice Benkioko, who sent his apologies. He really wanted to be with us here today, but he wasn't able to do so. He, however, did prepare a paper on the relationship between the African Commission on Human and People's Rights and the African Union Commission. For purposes of distinguishing the two during the presentation, you will allow me to refer to the Human Rights Commission by its acronym, ACHPR, and to the AU Secretariat as the AU Commission. Justice Kioko begins his paper with an introduction that sets out the historical context of the African Charter. He says that although states had by then recognized that justice, freedom, equality, and dignity were an essential ingredient to meet the aspirations of Africans across the continent, that the negotiation from the Human Rights Charter involved many compromises that have an effect on the promotion and protection of human rights today. He attributes this to the fact that the Human Rights Charter was negotiated in the late 70s and early 80s, when the focus was mainly on political liberation and the building of new fragile states. In his analysis, he points to this factor as leading to some of the challenges faced in the implementation of the Charter. He begins by, first of all, addressing a preliminary matter which he felt was particularly important about whether or not the ACHPR is an organ of the African Union. In his analysis, he indicates that at the time when the Constitutive Act was being negotiated, there was a large number of states that felt that it was unnecessary to include the ACHPR and the African Committee of Experts on the Rights and Welfare of the Child as specific organs because they were already treaty bodies of the AU. However, due to much debate and deliberation that followed the adoption of the Constitutive Act, it became necessary in 2003 for the AU Assembly of States, of Heads of State and Government, to pass a resolution indicating that the ACHPR would continue to operate under the AU system. He then poses a question as to why the other organs with similar arrangements, similar mandates, like the African Union Commission on International Law and the Advisory Board on Corruption, would be considered as organs and not the ACHPR. He then goes on to differentiate or to make a distinction between the obligations that the Secretariat or the AU Commission has towards the ACHPR from those of the member states as a collective union. In his paper, he lays forth the following obligations. First, he says the AU Commission is a depository for the African Charter. He says, however, since all member states have now ratified the Charter except for South Sudan, the functions of the AU Commission have reverted to requests for information regarding the Charter, dealing with proposed amendments, and nomination and election of members of the African Commission. He says, however, since 1981, no country has made proposals for the amendment of the Charter. The second obligation, he says, the Commission has towards the ACHPR is with regard to the appointment of the Secretary. Under the relevant provisions of the treaty, the AU Commission provides a secretariat to the ACHPR. Specifically related to the appointment of the Secretary, he refers to the amendment of the rules of procedure of the ACHPR, in which they allocated to themselves a role in the appointment of the Secretary. He concludes that the AU Commission is not bound by the internal rules of the ACHPR because those rules have not been adopted by the policy organs of the AU. He advises that a more practical arrangement would have been negotiated for an administrative one put in place by the chairperson of the AU Commission. With regard to the appointment of the staff of the Commission, he says all AU bodies are governed by the AU staff rules and regulations, which set out the broad human resources policies. He demonstrates in his paper how the human and financial resourcing of the Commission was grossly inadequate in the initial years of 1989 to 1994, resulting in a paralysis of the Commission's work. He then indicates that 33 new positions were approved in 2010 to be put in place over a period of 5 years. He, however, says that there will be a stall in the process during the years of 2013 and 2014 due to a non-allocation of resources towards this. But this will affect all the AU institutions, not just the ACHPR. He concludes, however, in this section that there have been massive improvements in the functioning of the ACHPR and that they have managed to have a reasonable amount of success over the years. The next obligation he refers to, before I move to that, he makes a comparison between the staffing of the Commission and that of the Court. He indicates that there is a difference as the African Court appoints its staff directly with merely administrative assistance of the AU Commission. And he attributes this to the treaty provisions as well as to the nature of the appointments of the staff, and in particular to the fact that the President of the Court serves on a full-time basis. The next obligation he outlines in his paper is that in relation to financing. He indicates that the AU Commission is responsible or has a role in collating the budget proposal of all the AU institutions and submitting them to the policy organs for consideration. It has a role in disbursing approved budgets, and it has a role in making audit arrangements for each of the institutions. He then goes to, he provides a table in his paper with regard to the financing of the ACHPR over the past 25 years. It shows that the ACHPR budget has only amounted to between 1.5 and 3% of the overall AU budget. And he indicates that this is particularly low for a body that has the primary responsibility of dealing with human rights on the continent. If I may highlight that the 3% was only achieved in 2011. Before that, it was between 1.5% and 2.5%, fluctuating. He anticipates that the budget of the ACHPR will increase in the coming years, as has been resolved repeatedly by the Executive Council, but most recently at the July summit. Finally, the final obligation which he highlights that the AU Commission has towards the ACHPR is in relation to election of commissioners. In his paper, he merely highlights certain issues which he found to be of concern. One was in relation to the skewed gender geographical balance based on skewed nominations by states, according to the AU election rules, and also the incompatibility of functions of the commissioners in their full-time positions with their responsibilities at the ACHP. In conclusion, he underscores the crucial role played by the ACHPR in the promotion and protection of human rights on the continent. He refers to the fact that efforts of the ACHPR have been hampered by a lack of adequate resourcing. He acknowledges the role of other actors like civil society and individual human rights activists in the work of the Commission and in the promotion of human rights on the continent. He then makes recommendations with regard to the need for adequate financing, the need for addressing the imbalance in representation and in nominations by member states, and on the issue of incompatibility of the functions of the commissioners with their responsibilities.